Hello and welcome to the Have You Seen podcast, brought to you by Dave on Film. I'm Dave, and this is my extra episode where we have a weekly Wednesday roundup of the UK box office top 10, as well as all the stuff that I've been watching during the week. So let's get straight into the top 10. At number 10 is Bugonia. This is the fourth week in the top 10. It is the new Yorgos Lanthimos film. Now, Lanthimos films are quite divisive. The Greek director first came to me with The Favourite in 2018. A film which saw Olivia Colman win her first Oscar for an outstanding performance. Since then, I've seen The Lobster, which is a really surreal experience, if you've seen that one. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is pretty harrowing. And Poor Things, a film which pulled in a huge 4 Oscars. I've missed a couple of his films, such as Kinds of Kindness and Dogtooth, but I am definitely going to go back to him because I think he's a really interesting director. Now, here in Bugonia, he does continue his kind of unique style, along with Robbie Ryan's fantastic cinematography. This is about Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbis. I think it's Delbis. They play Teddy and Don, who are two conspiracy theorists who kidnap a high-powered CEO of a major company, played by Emma Stone, because they're convinced that she's an alien who's on Earth to infiltrate the human race. They shave her head completely bald, because they believe that'll stop her from communicating with her mothership. And they keep her tied up to try and get her to admit that she is an alien, whilst also kind of trying to stay under the radar of the authorities, who are kind of on the lookout for the businesswoman who's gone missing. Now, it is a slow film. If you've seen other Lanthimos films, you'll kind of understand how the pacing is. There's fleeting moments of frantic energy which kind of ramp everything up, and it goes into full-on carnage briefly. And it is quite hard to talk about this film without mentioning the ending, so I'm going to try and do it without that. But if you've seen it, you'll know why. And I'll try and still do it justice. Now, Jesse Plemons is absolutely fantastic. His bedraggled Teddy is just on the right side of psychotic, kind of longing for the justification of his obsession, and he's going to stop at nothing to get that. He puts in a really good, believable performance, and the juxtaposition between his character and Emma Stone's Michelle is fantastic. She's clean-cut, well-dressed, she's a businesswoman, she's driven to succeed. But when she gets stripped back and shaven and covered in cream, which makes sense when you see it, she's really vulnerable, and she's desperate to escape from the madmen. It is a really interesting film. It's got a decent premise, and it is a typical Yorgos Lanthimos film, which isn't afraid to stick to its convictions in the end. But it's not his greatest film. It does suffer quite a bit from its slow pacing and its very small cast. And ultimately, there's not that much story in there to carry it through its runtime. So that is number 10 in the current UK box office top 10. And that's Bugonia. At number 9 is Jujutsu Kaisen Execution. This is the second week in the top 10. A Japanese anime that I've not seen. I don't know much about it at all. So if you have seen anything about Jujutsu Kaisen and you want to comment, drop it in. Drop a message into me. All the details underneath the episode details. And you can get in touch and tell me what you thought of Jujutsu Kaisen. At number 8 is A Paw Patrol Christmas. The first Christmas film in the top 10 this week. It's been in there now for 3 weeks in the top 10. I've still not seen it, but it's not Christmas yet, is it? At number 7 is Christmas Karma, which is on the top 10 for its second week, but it is dropping away now. It's another Christmas film, which will probably likely be on streaming quite soon. I've not heard good things about it, but if you want a Christmas film at this festive time, go along, see it. Let me know what you think about it. At number 6 is The Choral. This is the third week in the charts, and it stayed at the number 6 spot from last week. It's all about Ralph Fiennes recruiting teenagers during World War I after all the adults have gone off to war. so that he can continue his choir. But along with that, obviously, comes problems and the kids getting conscripted. It totally flew under my radar until I saw it last week in the top 10. So I've not had a chance to see this yet, but it is one that I am actually interested in and I will pick up as soon as I get the opportunity. At number 5, down from number 3, is Predator Badlands. So this is the third week in the top 10. It's a new Predator film. It's all about an outcast predator that's got an unlikely ally in Elle Fanning. Again, unfortunately, not seen this one. I do want to get to see this in the cinema because I think this might be a cinema film. So I am going to try and get fit in to watch this. But if you have seen it again, let me know what you think. At number 4, and the second week at number 4, is Nuremberg, which is Michael Shannon and Russell Crowe being involved in psychoanalyzing the evil minds of Nazi leaders during the Nuremberg trials. Again, not one I've kind of had on my radar. I've not been able to see. It's got okay reviews. It's got a decent performance from Russell Crowe by all means. But if you've seen it, let me know. And now we are on to the top 3. And I've seen all these 3, you'll be happy to know. So first up at number 3 is The Running Man. After narrowly missing out on top spot last week, it's taken a massive hit at the box office and it is now well behind second place. If you want to tune into last week's episode, you'll hear my full review. But basically, it's a remake of the Stephen King book, which was made into an Arnie film in the 80s and has been updated with a much more faithful adaptation. It is a lot of fun, but it did fall short for me with the ending, which I felt let the whole film down. At number 2, and the second week in the charts, is Now You See Me, Now You Don't. It did top the charts last week, and it's a big budget threequel. Yep, I said threequel. And it's all about magicians and heists. It is a good, fun heist movie. And if you liked the previous 2 films in the Now You See Me franchise, you are going to enjoy this one. There's a lot to enjoy in there. It's good fun. Just remove your brain and go and enjoy it. And now we are on to the number 1 film in the cinema, in the UK, and indeed in the world this week. And taking a massive 18.8 million in its first week alone. There's no surprise here, but the number 1 movie is Wicked for Good. So Wicked for Good is the concluding part of the big screen adaptation of the stage musical Wicked. It's essentially the second act of the show, and seeing the first film is pretty much essential to know what the hell is going on in this one. So if you've not seen the first one, you're probably not going to understand anything I'm talking about here. So we pick up the story just after Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo, is cast out by the Ozians, and she's kind of portrayed as the Wicked Witch of the West by the Wizard, who's played by Jeff Goldblum, and Michelle Yeoh's Madame Morrible. Whilst Glinda, played by Ariana Grande, wants to continue a friendship with Elphaba, it's also a desire to be loved and adored by the people of Oz, which leads to Madame Morrible using her to become kind of the figurehead for the campaign against Elphaba. Now, Elphaba just wants to do the right thing for people and struggles to get the animals of the world who talk. The animals talk in this film. She wants to save them by standing up against the wizard with them, but they've all been banished and they don't want to stand up because they just know that they're probably going to get killed. So they're all outlawed from the land. Meanwhile, you've got Elphaba's sister Nessa Rose, who's struggling. She's now taken over as governor of Oz, and she's struggling to maintain control, and she's even banning travel not only for the animals but also for the munchkins, much to the chagrin of Bock, who's played by Ethan Slater, who she's kind of been involved with. And whilst trying to help her sister, Elphaba casts a spell on Bock from the Grimoire, but it backfires. And if you've not seen the musical, I won't spoil what happens. If you have seen the musical, you know what happens to Bock. At the same time, you've got Fiyero, played by Jonathan Bailey, and Glinda, who are set to be married, but his heart belongs to Elphaba, so it's only a matter of time until that facade comes crashing down and does again lead to devastating consequences. Again, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who's not seen the musical, but there's an interesting story that goes on there. And then, obviously, whilst all this is happening, we've got a background story which you might well know. A house appears in a cyclone that Madame Morrible has conjured up, and it crashes into Munchkin Land, and it crashes on top of someone, and a young girl comes out, and a dog, and they're sent off to see the wizard. So obviously it's a familiar story which serves as the catalyst for the downfall of Elphaba as we know it. And let's face it, who doesn't know the end of Wizard of Oz? But if you don't know the ending of Wicked, it might surprise you what happens, but I'll let you experience that for yourself. Now, I went into this film with a little bit of trepidation. I'll openly admit that I don't think that the first film's amazing. It's got some big songs in it and all the fun elements of the show, but the second act is completely different. There's some real peril and upset and the demise of some characters. Also, the second half of the show doesn't have those big spectacular musical numbers that the first half has. Like, the first half of the show has songs like Defying Gravity, Popular, and The Wizard and I, and they're really big musical numbers that were done really well in the first film. But I did really enjoy this. It got into the darker parts of the story pretty early doors, and it embraced what were going on. And I thought that the way that this film portrayed certain elements of the show, such as Bock and Fiero's story, was done really well. However, I am very much aware that people who weren't expecting those moments to happen might be a little bit shocked when they actually do happen. And I understand that, because they are a bit weird, those events that take place. But you'll see when you get to it. I thought that Cynthia Erivo put in a really good performance as Elphaba, showing kind of a full range of emotions throughout, with a really good... she's got a really good singing voice, and that comes across really well. There's a couple of new songs in there. One in particular called The Girl in the Bubble, sung by Ariana Grande, is quite powerful, and it's filmed in a really good way. They use using mirrors and the camera going in and out of the set really well. And I expect there'll probably be some behind-the-scenes footage that come about for how that scene was actually shot. The supporting cast are great. I could watch Jeff Goldblum in absolutely anything, and he gets plenty of airtime in the sequel, which is definitely more than welcome. His quirkiness is really well done. It's just how Jeff Goldblum is, isn't it? And it's quite an inspired piece of casting in that sense. Jonathan Bailey as well, let's face it, he's there to be the eye candy, and he plays into that well. He does get his shirt off in one scene, you'll be happy to know. So I've seen the stage show twice, and I do love the stage show. And I remember watching the first Wicked film and being a little bit underwhelmed. But part of that could have been because it felt like the story wasn't finished. It kind of felt like an interval, like you would have at the theatre. But now we've got effectively the full 5-hour spectacular when you put them both together. And I think that the second part really elevates the whole thing and makes it more enjoyable. And I do like how the merging of the story from Wizard of Oz comes to fruition in the second part and blends really well into this story. So Wicked for Good is a really good, well-made conclusion to the epic story adapted from the stage, based on a book that was based on the original film, that was based on the original book back from the year 1900. The story, the Wizard of Oz story, is 125 years old now, and it's still being watched today. And we've actually had some correspondence in about Wicked, which I'm going to go to now. So I encourage you to, if you disagree with what I say, if you agree with what I say, if you want to put your point across about something you've seen, something you've enjoyed, let me know. Which is exactly what Thomas Pitts has done. And he sent an email in titled Wicked for Shite. So I think it's quite clear what Thomas is going to think about that. So I'm going to read it out word for word, his email, and we'll see what I kind of think afterwards. So here we go. So Thomas says, I did not enjoy the second half of this evil film. No real hooks in terms of music. The hits are all in the first one, and you know me and music go together well. The highlight for me was a song about bubble popping, whatever, and the way that was filmed, very clever, seemingly one shot but cannot possibly have been. The nods to the original were clever. I've never seen it, but I've also never seen the musical either. Meh. So I think it's safe to say Thomas isn't a fan of Wicked for Good. So it's interesting because I've heard a few other reviews of Wicked for Good, and a lot of people saying that they don't enjoy it as much as the first one, but I am completely in the other camp. I think that they really did well with this, and yes, it's not got those big hits, the showstopper hits that you know. But that happens a lot with sequels, especially musical sequels. So when you look at things like Moana and Frozen, for example, like Frozen, you had Let It Go, were a massive song from Frozen. Frozen 2 came out. It has some alright songs in it, but they never kind of hit the heights that the original one do. And I think that is the case with Wicked. The songs in the second film, which link to the songs in the show, aren't as big and aren't as powerful because in the show, Defying Gravity is the major one, and that's kind of at the end of the first act of the show, just before the interval, and that's where it sits in the films. So, yeah, I do agree with you, Thomas, that the hits are all in the first one, and they're not as good in the second one. And the Girl in the Bubble song is really good. It does work well, and that filming style is really... And I really want to see how it was done and whether they actually did do it in single takes and using body doubles and things like that. I'm certainly going to look up to that, and if I see anything, I'll share it on my socials. So that is Wicked for Good, which is in cinemas now and is probably going to be in the top 10 films for a long time to come. So let's have a quick look at the other films that I've seen in the last 7 days. First of all, I saw a horror film called Shelby Oaks. Shelby Oaks is the feature debut from director Chris Stuckman, and it will produce. When a film starts and you just see all the companies that have produced it. There's hundreds of them, because they were a crowdfunding project that helped get it off the ground. Mike Flanagan, executive producers, and at times it very much feels like one of his films. So he was involved with Haunting of Hill House, and this does kind of feel very much like it could be part of the Haunting of Hill House universe. So the story follows Mia, a woman who is searching for a little sister Riley who's gone missing. Riley was part of a YouTube group who kind of visited haunted locations and try uncovering the secrets behind them, while struggling with her own night terrors and a fear that someone was kind of after her. And when she starts to investigate, she comes across strange people and videotape evidence of supernatural wrongdoings. And Mia is looking for her sister who's gone missing. And these videotapes are kind of giving her clues as to where she's gone. Now, the film starts very much like a found footage film, really like Blair Witch. And I thought it was going to be a Blair Witch type film because we were watching the video footage of Riley going missing. Can you see something in the background? Is there something in the window? Is there something in the shadows? And I thought that that's where the film was going to be, but then it takes a shift into kind of normal narrative storytelling. And I did feel a little bit confused at first, but then there's a realisation that to get the dramatic effect of everything that happens, we need the characters to be followed by kind of the normal filmmaking processes. So then you have Mia visited by a mysterious man who promptly leaves her with another mysterious videotape, and then the story starts to take a nasty dark turn. And I have to say, for the first time in a long, long time, this film really put me on edge and actually made me feel some of the fear and panic that they were wanting you to feel. Now, I'm not one who scares easily at all, but there were a real sense of dread through this one. There's a few jump scares in there, but everything just feels off throughout, and I think that's really what puts it on edge. And it feels like there's something evil lingering over everything that happens. I felt like I were always looking in the background to kind of see if I could see things, and it kind of put me into the film somewhat. And that's something that I've not felt from a horror film for quite a while, and it's done what it's set out to do. It's creepy, it's visceral all the way through. It's a great outing for the first-time director, and if this is what he's got to offer, I'm going to certainly be looking out for his next film. If you want a film that sets you on edge and can deliver some real terror and nerve-shredding panic, this is probably the film for you. And Shelby Oaks is available to stream right now. I also watched one of my favourites of all time. It's a 1985 comedy from the National Lampoon team, and it's National Lampoon's European Vacation. Now, a lot of people will go to the original Vacation film as their go-to vacation, but I love European Vacation. It was the first one that I watched. So it's the sequel to the original Vacation film, and here we find the Griswolds winning a trip around Europe on a TV game show. So they visit England, France, Germany and Italy, kind of feeding into every single stereotype you possibly can. So when they're in England, it's grim, it's rainy, they can't use roundabouts, all that kind of thing. When they're in France, it's all berets and Eiffel Towers. In Italy, everyone dresses snazzily. They have a shopping trip where they're dressing like really snazzy, stylish clothes. And in Germany, they go to a show where everyone's wearing lederhosen and drinking from steins. You know, it's got all the stereotypes in there. But it is really funny. It's funny, it's stupid, it's daft. I used to watch this all the time when I was younger, and it was good to go back and get back into the life of the Griswolds before, inevitably, over the next few weeks, I watch Christmas Vacation. European Vacation is available to stream right now. I also watched The Toxic Avenger this week, and this is the new Toxic Avenger, which stars Peter Dinklage as Winston Goose, who is exposed to toxic waste and is transformed into the Toxic Avengers. Well, Toxic Avenger is a disfigured guy who uses a toxic mop to attack baddies and do the right thing and basically just beat up the bad guys. He pulls limbs off, he smashes people's face in. It's grotesque and it's completely over the top, and it's kind of trying to outdo everything that came before it. Now, I'm glad I've seen it because I've seen the originals recently. But I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone. But then the original ones were trash as well. So it's just an utter trash movie, but just with a massive budget. So if you want that kind of thing, it's very much like all the trauma films that came before it, but it's just trying to push the envelope a little bit more. And that's Toxic Avenger, and that's available to rent online now. I also went back to 1985 and watched Teen Wolf, which is one of my favourites. When I was younger, I used to watch Teen Wolf all the time. It's the Michael J. Fox vehicle from 1985. It's a coming-of-age film where the changing of a boy into a wolf can kind of be seen as an allegory for puberty. He's a shy teenager who can't really talk to the girl that he fancies and things like that until he turns into a wolf. And everybody loves the wolf. Wolf's funny, it's wild, he's amazing at basketball because, you know, obviously, why not? And he quickly becomes a favourite at school, but no one knows that it's like shy Scott Howard. There's a couple of love interests, a love triangle in the middle, and life lessons in love and acceptance and finding the inner wolf in everybody. It's a total cheese fest, but it's good fun. It's typical 80s, and it's available to watch online now. And and I'm going to leave you with this one because I think this is a really good place to leave anything. I watched a 2004 film that I found on streaming, and I kind of wish I didn't find it, but then I'm glad I've seen it. And I never saw it when it were out originally. And I'm sorry for the language I'm going to use here, but the film's called Fat Slags. So it's a film of the Viz comic strip of the same name. So if you know Viz, it's a comic, it's vulgar, it's crass, but it's quite funny. So this film is a film version of that. It's a vulgar, cameo-filled, very, very British affair, which just tries to outgross itself at every turn. So you've got Trey and San, who are the titular fat slags from Fulchester, and they want to go to London and get famous, and they decide that eating and shagging their way to capital is the best way to do it. Yeah. After a knock on the head, high flyer CEO Sean Cooley, played by Jerry O'Connell, who clearly just needed a paycheck, falls in love with women and lusts after them for no reason whatsoever. There's cameos everywhere. You got Anthony Head, Jerry Halliwell, Ralph Little, Naomi Campbell, Sarah Kaywood, Angus Dayton, Les Dennis, Hugh Dennis, amongst others. There's loads of people that you'll recognise in this. I mean, it's not great. It's really crude and crass. But I did laugh a fair few times, so it was fairly enjoyable. Now that's Fat Slags. If you can find it, I mean, I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but there you go. So there we go, that's another week. That's me rounding up the UK box office top 10 and what I have watched this week. There's a few new films coming out this week. There's a new Knives Out coming out. TV's going to take up some time this week because Stranger Things is out. Stranger Things Season 5. So I'm definitely going to be watching that. But I'm going to try and get to see as many films as I can at the same time. If you've seen anything, drop me a line, send me your review in, and we'll get it featured on here in the correspondence. Thanks for listening. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, comment away, and I'll see you next time.